Hi, I'm Rahul Philippos and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about the Sabarmati Ashram development project and the challenges faced by the Gujarat government. We also give you a quick update on what Rahul Gandhi said about the upcoming state assembly elections. But first, we talk about medical education in India. Last week, the MCC, the Medical Counselling Committee, announced that they would remove all eligibility criteria for students who had appeared for Neet postgraduate entrance exam. Currently, the MCC, which is in charge of allotting seats to Neet PG exam takers, assigns ranks to students. It is these ranks that determine their placement in colleges. And in case of vacant seats, the MCC lowers the eligibility cutoff so that students with lower ranks can fill them. However, according to the latest announcement, the council had decided that not only students who scored below the eligibility cutoff, but also those who received a 0 percentile or even negative marks in this postgraduate entrance exam would be eligible to secure seats in medical institutions across India. To know what this means and what are the possible consequences of such a decision, my colleague Uchcha Sanmin speaks to the Indian Express's Anonna Dutt in this segment.
So Anonna, can you first tell us what does it mean to set the eligibility cutoff for vacant PG seats at 0 percentile? Does it mean everyone who had appeared for the exam is eligible to get a seat in a medical school?
Yes and no. So basically, removing the cutoff means they are technically eligible to get a PG seat. However, people who track the process closely say that it is unlikely to be that people who have scored 0 or in a negative will get a seat. That's because there are a limited number of seats in the country. This year, around 68,000 PG seats are available in the country. And some 2.25 lakh people have appeared for NEET this year. So only 68,000 people can get a seat, and it's unlikely that the marks would touch 0.
And do we know if this is the first time we are seeing something like this?
So this is the first time since NEET started in 2017 that the cutoff for PG seats has been reduced to 0 percentile. However, before NEET had started, the case was actually similar because the MBBS passing marks was used to determine merit, which meant that anybody who had passed the MBBS exam could potentially get a PG seat. Anyone who's right now appearing for NEET PG has also passed their MBBS exam, so it's almost similar. NEET was actually instituted as a way to determine interstate merit.
Right, and Anonna, could you tell us why did the MCC take this decision to remove cutoffs?
So the main reason cited for reducing the percentile or sort of doing away with the cutoff that has been cited is to basically fill up the PG seats. Despite several rounds of counselling every year, around 2,000 to 4,000 seats remained vacant. And if you're looking at government seats, it costs the government about 2 crores to create a PG seat. So that's actually a waste of a resource. This was the reason why they have reduced the cutoff, and they want to ensure that maximum number of seats are taken in the counselling round. So right now, even though usually you would have like 3 rounds of counselling and a stray vacancy round, this time after 2 rounds, we still had some 13,000 seats vacant. So the attempt would be to fill up all these seats.
And what are the factors that have contributed to this high number of vacant PG medical seats in India?
So one, of course, could be that there has been a sudden increase in the number of seats, and it could be in subjects that students generally do not prefer. So one of the people who is in the know of this matter, he said that a lot of these non-clinical subjects such as anatomy, biochemistry, microbiology, these subjects which do not deal with treating patients directly are not preferred as much as clinical subjects like radiodiagnosis, etc. So these seats then remain vacant.
Right, so one would assume that these vacancies may have an impact on medical education in the country.
So, per se, the vacancy does not impact medical education, but it is a waste of resource when we look at from the government point of view, because they're spending the money whether the student studies or not. So it's just better that it gets allotted to someone. The concern that a lot of people raise that with, removing the cutoff criteria, the quality of education would drop. That the experts say is not true because, again, the seats would be assigned to people with higher ranks. So people who've scored 0 or negative are unlikely to get these seats. I mean, the impact would be the same as if, a merit list was prepared for, say, 50 percentile, which is the first cutoff list. Then it's slowly reduced every year to fill up more seats. The impact would be the same. It's just that we wouldn't have separate notifications bringing down the number every time.
Right, and apart from this, there's also another concern that has been raised. Students who come from financially comfortable backgrounds may end up paying more to secure seats in private colleges despite having a lower rank. So talk to us about this potential consequence of the MCC's decision.
So there are two issues when it comes to private medical colleges. One issue that a lot of people raised was about buying of seats that happen in these private colleges, which is when during the last round of counseling, the seats are sold per se to the highest bidder, whether they have the marks or not. To curb this time around, the government has actually said that there will be no stray vacancy round, which means that all the seats will be allocated through this transparent mechanism of counseling. In stray vacancy rounds, actually, the colleges used to have the power to determine who would get the seat, so they could give it to the highest bidder. So they have stopped this practice this session onwards. The second concern is, of course, people with money being able to study, which to a certain extent will be true. There would be people who might have scored higher than a person who is able to afford a fees of, say, 1 crore for a year. So there would be people who can pay that amount and get admitted in private medical colleges when some people with higher scores may not be able to.
Dear listeners, before we continue with today's show, a quick word from our sponsors, DW, Deutsche Welle. In a country like ours, the pressure from our parents and those around us can often affect our decisions. Our dreams can often take a back seat. Though there are a few among us who dare to ask, what if I followed my dreams instead? Tune into the second season of DW's show, Choices, Dare to Dream, where 6 individuals meet their role models and turn their dreams into reality. Like Akanksha, who is secretly pursuing her true passion, rap. Can Kambhari help? Or Ketan, an e-commerce stylist who teams up with Payal Singhal to chase his dreams of dressing A-list celebrities in a Parisian fashion show. To know if Akanksha and Ketan could turn their dreams into reality, click on the link in the description to watch DW Choices, currently streaming on JioCinema. Don't miss out and remember, dare to dream. Now on with the show. And next we talk about Gujarat. For the past 3 years, the Gujarat government and the central government have been collaboratively working on the development of the renowned Mahatma Gandhi Ashram.
One of Ahmedabad's key attraction is the Mahatma Gandhi Ashram, which was basically the place of his residence and work operations somewhere from between 1915 to 1933.
That is the Indian Express's Sohini Ghosh. And she says that the idea behind this Mahatma Gandhi Ashram Memorial and Precinct Development Project is to restore the area around the ashram to the way it was before 1949.
So after 1949, we saw the ashram's holdings being fragmented among different trusts. There were other encroachments, shops started running, the land use changed. So the basic idea of the whole project is to put a stop to all that, all the commercial work that took place or probably the encroachments, etc. Get a new trust which is already in operation and have them operate this area, restore the area basically to what it was like in 1949. So this would mean basically restoring the old buildings that stood in the area then, the land use being changed back to how it was back then, And all of this while also developing the area for tourism and museum purposes. So the plan for developing of the area has now officially been in the works since around late 2020, but unofficially the idea has been floating around of, developing this whole ashram area into the 1949 map since around several decades now.
Now, this project, which is worth rupees 1,200 crores, requires the government to acquire the land around the ashram. And in the last 3 years, they had managed to convince the residents in this area to vacate their homes in exchange for rehabilitation or monetary compensation. However, there are 3 families which have staunchly refused to vacate. In fact, 2 of these families have filed public interest litigations against the project, creating a significant hurdle for the government. To know about the grievances of these families and the concerns that this project has raised, here's Ucha again speaking to Sohini in this segment.
So Sohini, can you start by telling us why these 3 families have refused to vacate this area?
So one of the key reasons that some of these residents who are refusing to vacate, they have cited is the differential treatment in the payment of the rehabilitation and resettlement package. So they have alleged basically that there are some encroachers who had never had any connection with Gandhiji, who never had any connection with the ashram or the work it used to do. They are being paid, they are being rehabilitated under the government scheme, which they see as unfair. And these are usually the families who were related to the ashram, who probably their ancestors probably joined Gandhiji during the freedom movement. So there is one bone of contention there. Secondly, of course, there's also a sentimental attachment that they cite as being one of the reasons. Also, leaving the area would mean uprooting their whole lives. So there's a school nearby. Several of them work in one of the ashram campuses, be it, say, the girls' hostel or at an AMC school nearby. Relocating would also mean that your distances increase, your workplace gets shifted or far away. So that is also a practical reason that they have been citing. But one thing I would clarify here is even the ones who are not vacating, they too understand the inevitability of it. I mean, there is a certain kind of acceptance where they understand that they cannot be the only ones staying put here forever, especially for such a large-scale project and where you have the central as well as the state government involved.
And we understand that the families also approached the Gujarat High Court raising concerns over the project, right?
Right. So technically, up to last week, as per the ashram officials, there were 4 resident families who had not vacated, despite multiple notices by the authorities that you have to hand over possession. So of them, of the 4 families, 2 have pending litigation with one of the former trust, which is the Sabarmati Ashram Trust. So their broad contention in the litigations are that there is a civil dispute going on with the trust, and while there is a dispute going on, you cannot be handing over the possession to, say, the state government until our dispute is resolved. So 2 families have some litigation going on along these lines. That apart, there is also a public interest litigation pending before the High Court, where the litigant has basically alleged that a total of around rupees 250 crores was disbursed to around 30 families who were allegedly encroachers. I mean, if they are alleging some 250 crores disbursed around for 30 families, that means an average of 8 crores being paid per family, which is quite enormous compared to what the rehabilitation package gives, which is 60 lakh per family. The PIL also makes another allegation that an NGO which was illegally operating from within the ashram premise since several years, and this NGO was or is still headed by the son-in-law of current UP governor and former Gujarat Chief Minister Anandiben Patel. So the allegation in the PIL is that they have been paid some rupees 45 crores for vacating an office premise which was illegally situated on the campus to start with. So there has been no headway in this PIL yet. And also the two families' individual litigations against the Sabarmati Harijan Ashram Trust, that too is pending.
And do we know how the authorities are thinking of taking care of what they term is an obstacle to this project?
So the official line taken by the authorities is that they want to do this peacefully. They don't really want to strong arm them into vacating it. And I think somewhere the families too realize that and they have accepted it, but in a way they are trying to buy time to get more clarity on the whole deal that is going on with the rehabilitation and resettlement. And the idea behind that for the families is they want to get a fair deal. They don't want to get stuck with, rupees 60 lakh rupees when, say, their neighbors are getting few crores. So it's sort of a fear of missing out that's holding them back.
Right, and Sohini, apart from this, where these families have concerns over the rehabilitation packages, there were some other questions raised some time back, right? Especially regarding the slum dwellers in the area.
Right. So there has been a group of around 50, 60 slum dwellers, families who too reside near the ashram, who too were vacated. And although they were told that they won't be eligible for the ashram rehabilitation and resettlement policy because they are slum dwellers illegally living there, but at the same time they would be considered for rehabilitation under the appropriate slum development policy. But as during my reporting trip, I did end up meeting some of these slum dwellers, and their complaint was that they have not been rehabilitated. They have only been asked to go to one of the shelter homes nearby. And they were expressing some very basic issues, like, for example, we have a young daughter or a woman with us, and the shelter home has drunk yards. So, we can't really be living there. We have been just shuttling from one relative's place to another because we can't even be staying at a relative's place for too long. It's making us sick staying at the shelter home. So issues like that. And they too have moved Gujarat High Court again now. And that there is also a litigation pending on that front.
And do we know if there are other concerns that this project has raised till now?
So one concern was raised by Mahatma Gandhi's great-grandson, Tushar Gandhi, in a public interest litigation, that the ashram as it was known till now, it did not have government interference. And one of the point of concern for Tushar was if the government gets into this, we'll also see government interference in the administration. So, for example, if you have a museum and a memorial dedicated to Mahatma Gandhi and you have the government involved, the concern was that the government gets to dictate what goes into that memorial, what is displayed in the museum. And these fears have also kind of distilled from how the Central Vista project has figured or shaped up, at least initially how it was thought it would shape up.
And in the end, we give you a quick update on Rahul Gandhi's poll forecast. This year, 4 major states are going to polls: Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Telangana. Now, winning these states may prove crucial to the political parties considering the upcoming Lok Sabha elections. And yesterday, during a conclave organized in Delhi by the Pratidin Media Network of Assam, the senior Congress leader Rahul Gandhi said that the narrative in the major assembly election-bound states is controlled by his party. And then he made some predictions about the Congress's prospects.
There's no way we're not going to win any of them. Okay. I would say right now, we are probably winning Telangana.
Right.
We are certainly winning Madhya Pradesh. We are certainly winning Chhattisgarh.
Okay.
Rajasthan, we are very close and we think we'll be able to win. Okay. So that's what it's...
Gandhi's views on the Congress's prospects in the poll-bound states, according to leaders, are in line with the findings of the party's internal surveys. One internal survey has forecast that the party is set to win 50 to 55 seats in Telangana, which is marginally behind the BRS. He also claimed that the BJP wins elections by diverting attention from the issues the Congress tries to raise. He added that the opposition parties had adapted and learned to deal with such tactics and that this was what helped them win in Karnataka.
So what did we do in Karnataka? We gave a clear vision for the state. This is the social security program that we're going to set up for you. And then we control the narrative. If you look at the Telangana election, we are controlling the narrative. The BJP is not even in the narrative now. It's gone. In fact, the BJP party has been decimated. It's over in
Talking
Telangana.
About the Lok Sabha elections, the Congress leader said, and I quote, "So don't think that the opposition isn't capable of adapting. We are adapting. We are working together. We are 60% of India's population. BJP is in for a surprise in 2024, unquote. The Congress MP alleged that the government came up with the idea of a special session to distract from media revelations on the Adani Group. He alleged that the initial plan of the government was to change India's name to Bharat, but there was a huge backlash after which they came up with the Women's Reservation Bill. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was hosted by me, Rahul Philippos. It was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and written and produced by Ucha Sarmin and Shashank Bhargav. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone who you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.